Hello, dear Turkish Spotlight Secrets family. Welcome to a fresh chapter where romance doesn't just break the rules, it writes new ones in ink that refuses to fade. Today's story isn't a passing whisper or a recycled headline, it's an unexpected turn in the love lives of two of Turkey's most adored stars, a moment so striking that even seasoned insiders had to catch their breath. And before we set sail, remember, your support keeps Turkish Spotlight Secrets shining. If you love our deep dives and intimate storytelling, subscribe, switch on notifications, and consider joining our member circle by clicking join. Your backing lets us bring you the kind of nuanced content you deserve. Now take a breath, because what happened to Çağatay Ulusoy and Hazal is the kind of revelation that makes even the most cynical hearts believe in serendipity. The script everyone expects, the one where the man kneels, the music swells, and a ring appears like magic, just got rewritten on open water. For his birthday, Çağatay had masterminded something deliberately quiet, a little getaway where the sea could replace the constant flash of cameras and the murmur of the city could fall away behind them. Picture it, a sleek yacht drifting beyond the coastline, the deck warm underfoot, the sky slipping from gold to amethyst as the sun tucked itself into the horizon. It was the kind of evening that softens the edges of even the most guarded soul. He wanted peace, a simple celebration far from questions, rumors, and the hum of competing headlines. Yet the calm he arranged laid the groundwork for a moment he never saw coming. Later, when he allowed himself to share the memory in careful words, he admitted the atmosphere felt almost enchanted, as if the sea had called a truce with time. It was just the two of them, no entourage, no stylists, no strategically placed phones. The wind teased the candle flames. The music was barely louder than the hush of the waves. And as twilight brushed a line of silver over the water, Hazal made a choice that changed everything. She stood with an expression both steady and luminous, slipped a small velvet box from her pocket, and walked toward him with the quiet resolve of someone who knew precisely what she wanted. He assumed it was a birthday token, the kind you treasure for years, a watch, a cufflink set, something simple but meaningful. The truth inside the box was far more daring. Hazal, elegant and disarmingly brave, lowered herself on one knee right there on the deck and looked up at him with the kind of gaze that leaves no room for doubt. She wasn't performing for a camera, she wasn't chasing a headline, she was claiming a moment. Her voice was soft, confident, and unshakably sincere as she asked him to choose her not for a season, not for the glow of an event, but for the long voyage ahead. Without theatrical flourishes, she breathed the question that has already turned legendary among those who were lucky enough to hear it secondhand: would he move through life with her, side by side, whatever the waters brought? It was an invitation to partnership rather than possession, to team up for every calm morning and stormy midnight they had yet to meet. For a heartbeat, he couldn't move. He confessed later that his mind went completely blank, overtaken by a tide of emotion so strong it left him weightless. This wasn't a pause filled with confusion, it was the stunned hush of a man who had just discovered a joy he hadn't dared to define. He felt his pulse race up into his throat, and yes, tears arrived before words did. It was as if the sea itself had drawn a circle around them, keeping the moment sacred. When he finally found his voice, it wasn't a grand speech, just an honest, trembling yes that said more than any poetic monologue ever could. And now, Turkish Spotlight Secrets family, I want to hear from you. How do you feel about a woman taking the initiative and asking the question first? Do you see it as power, as tenderness, as both? Or do you hold on to the classic tradition for a reason that's close to your heart? Tell me in the comments. And if this story is already tugging at your feelings like it's tugging at mine, tap that like button so more people can find their way here. Insiders can't stop replaying the tender details of that night. The candles weren't excessive, they were a constellation of small flames, reflecting in their eyes like starlight. The music was intimate, the kind that doesn't try to command a moment but gently frames it. When Hazal spoke, she didn't recite a poem or reach for grand metaphors. She kept it simple, direct, impossibly pure. Be my partner in every season, let's share every tide and sunrise, every set and wrap, every roll and every silence. That was her plea and her promise. It was the kind of honesty that disarms you because it doesn't hide behind performance, it is love stripped to its essence. What came next felt like a scene written for the kind of romance film that wins hearts without trying. He said yes, she rose, and their embrace was long and unguarded, the kind that makes the world stop searching for proof and simply believe. Later, tucked away from the night air, they celebrated in the privacy of their cabin, a celebration not of spectacle but of certainty. By morning, when they returned to shore, they tried to keep the glow to themselves, slipping through the city with the kind of quiet happiness that refuses to be bottled. But happiness has a way of radiating, and cameras did what cameras do. Photos surfaced within hours, the two of them stepping off the boat, smiles they couldn't shut down, the kind of glances that tell you everything. Neither offered comments to the cluster of microphones. They didn't have to. Because on his hand, sharp eyes noticed it, sat a ring that told the story without a single word. In a media cycle that thrives on speculation, this was confirmation by grace, not by press release. Social media did the rest. The reaction was thunderous and tender all at once. Fans flooded timelines with congratulations, calling it the fairy tale this century deserves, one that honors choice over choreography. People applauded Hazal, praising the calm authority in her gesture and how she balanced courage with warmth. Yet even as the trendline soared, the couple drew a gentle boundary. They weren't sprinting toward headlines or a televised ceremony. They wanted to savor this sweetness privately for a while, to live in it before sharing it. He stated clearly, through a friend who relayed their thoughts, that they are not rushing. Their foundation is steady, their rhythm is their own, and before they talk wedding dates, they want to honor their work, their families, and the small rituals that keep love grounded. And there is something undeniably poetic about where it happened. Both have said in quiet interviews that water steadies them, that the sea feels like home when life gets crowded. So of course the ocean wasn't a coincidence, it was a deliberate return to a shared refuge. Those who know them insist this wasn't impulsive improvisation. It was a conclusion many months in the making, the crest of a wave that had been swelling in private as they grew, separately and together. One person close to them described it this way: it wasn't a leap, it was a landing. Naturally, fans are already playing wedding strategist. The most popular theory is a ceremony that mirrors the proposal, sea-kissed and intimate, maybe on a private beach or aboard another boat, lines simple but elegant, nothing showy, nothing that chases applause. This is the kind of love that doesn't need 1,000 lights, it brightens the room on its own. There's talk that their schedules are both packed with demanding, carefully chosen projects, which means any celebration will happen when it feels right rather than when the calendar demands. Do they hide clues online? A couple of well-placed captions, a playful reference to anchors and horizons, and, yes, a few posts that nod to heart and ring emojis without actually flashing them. Breadcrumbs? Absolutely. A roadmap? Not quite. What makes this story feel so resonant, beyond the spectacle of a role reversal, is how human it is. Hazal's courage doesn't shout, it speaks. She decided she wouldn't wait for a scene to be written for her. She would write it. She reportedly told her inner circle she wanted to own the instant, to be the one to call it into being, to say the words first not because she needed power but because love felt too real to postpone behind expectation. And in the most beautiful kind of symmetry, Çağatay met that bravery with openness. He didn't hide behind a practiced smirk or a shield of irony. He cried. He let himself be moved. That is not weakness. That is strength in its most honest, unarmored form. Together, they've created the romance moment of the year, the one that makes people argue passionately in the comments because it matters to them. It matters because it asks us what love should look like when we strip away scripts we didn't write. And if you're asking me? It looks like two people choosing each other and facing the horizon as equals. From all of us at Turkish Spotlight Secrets, we're raising a quiet toast to them. May this promise grow in the shade and in the sun, in front of cameras and far away from them. Now I'm turning it over to you. What kind of wedding do you see in your mind when you think of these two? A grand celebration with a sweeping guest list, or something small where the ocean does the talking? Tell me your vision below. I read every word you share. Before you go, make sure you're subscribed, and if you want early access and special behind-the-scenes breakdowns, don't forget to hit that join button. Thank you for sailing through this story with us. We'll be back soon with more exclusives you won't hear anywhere else, because some love stories don't just make news. They make new rules, and we're here to witness every turn of the tide.